Thank you for tuning in to Real Silent, where we keep it real and let the pictures do the talking. He's Will. I'm Jamie.
This week we're talking about Metropolis. While attending the New York premiere of his movie Die Nibelungen, Fritz Lang saw the city from New York Harbor and was inspired for his next film. In 1924, Lang and Thea von Harbo collaborated on the screenplay that would become 1927's Metropolis. With an extensive 17-month production from May 1925 to August 1926, having 310 shooting days and 60 nights, and the most expensive silent film made at the time. 1.5 million Reichmarks to start, at about 5.3 million Reichmarks to end, which is 21 million euros or $24 million in today's money. Key aspects of the production included innovative special effects like the Schuften process, combining live actors with elaborate miniature sets and matte paintings to create the futuristic city. Director Fritz Lang, known as a taskmaster, always carrying a writing crop, put his cast and crew through endless retakes under harsh conditions, particularly for the flooding scene and for actress Bridget Helm, who suffered scrapes and injuries while wearing the uncomfortable robot costume. Earning back only 75,000 Reichmarks out of its estimated $6 million budget, it was initially considered a flop. In America, Paramount thought the narrative was problematic, took the task of making it more commercial, cutting out 30 minutes of the story, making it more disjointed and harder to follow than before. At the end of World War II, the Russians confiscated all the remaining clips of the film that had remained in German possession and took them back to Moscow. Russians banned the film in their own country in 1929.
Okay, Metropolis. I had heard of this movie. I had never sat down and watched this movie until I think we started before we even named the show, before we even talked about the
Yeah,
show. I told you about Greed, and you told me, "Oh, you got to watch Metropolis," and that's kind of where it started.
I think that's how this all started. It's like, you should watch this, you should watch this.
Yeah,
Let's talk
well,
about it too.
okay. Yeah, why don't we talk about it, you know? And here we are. So obviously some similarities between this and Greed.
With the
Huge
directors
budgets.
especially.
Oh yeah.
They
Lang
remind me of
and
each other.
yeah, they
Monocle.
perfection. Yeah, the characterization of them, but the perfectionism, um, 17 months. I don't know if there was necessarily any kind of contract that Lang had that said your movies have to be done within 3 months and they've got to be less than 500,000 Reichsmarks. And then he's like, same thing as von Stroheim, like, that's for
We'll
other people.
see. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see. It seems like he was almost given carte blanche at the time because of earlier successes, and so they let him get away with it.
yeah. I mean, 17 months, man, that's ridiculous, 310 days. Obviously, the math ain't mathing for a full, almost a year and a half of filming, obviously taking a little time here and there, but again, perfectionism
Mhm.
and the budget swelling by over almost 5 times what it was when it started out.
Yeah.
Uh, Definitely some similarities there, but it also comes down to, something we touched on before, that this was new. They didn't know how they were gonna do all these special effects and everything, like they were wanting to do. The scene particularly with the robot, the Machine Man, where it's sitting down and the little it the I liken it to kinda how they did Star Trek, the teleporter.
Yeah.
That had never been done before, that kind of special effect had never been done before, so how are we gonna make it happen? Um,
And she was getting some of her injuries were almost passing out from standing there still because she had to be as still as possible while they got a lot of footage so that they could probably that Schuften effect, with the mirrors and everything to superimpose on back onto it.
Yeah. It's
They
funny
didn't
to
have the
me that
technology we have.
well, it's funny to me they didn't think about, like, let's do a scene, quick, having her stand up, and then find a way to cut to, like, one of them looking at her like, "Oh, no," and then go back and then just have a mannequin standing there because it's a freaking robot at this
Yeah,
point, and then cut again, and then when they want her to move, then bring in the real actress and have her move again, it couldn't figure that out, but no, let's just make her stand in this uncomfortable costume for however long it took to get these takes. I do remember, reading something that Bridget, what was her name?
Helm.
Bridget Helm, that's right. I do remember her saying something about the process of filming and all of that, how Lang was kinda goes to his perfectionism, um, just about how they would film until everybody was ready to drop. Um, it was they were expected to be it's kinda like, I would say like The Shining,
Yeah,
where they had to do the scene where he's busting through the door, like, however many times.
until Shelley
Um
Long was honestly terrorized in real life, apparently.
Yeah, and, I mean, Jack Nicholson's arm was ready to, like, die.
Mhm.
You know? That kind of
Maybe
I
being
don't know.
exhausted lent to the scene is what Lang may have thought, because
What
he's also another one known for he threw someone down the stairs so that they would look disheveled for another movie. And so just like throwing the baby out the window for Eric Stroheim, it's there's not policies and laws in place for how you're allowed to treat people. This is my film, and we're gonna do it my way, and I need him to look like he fell down the stairs. So
I
where's the
I
stairs,
mean yeah, look, how else are you gonna look like you just got punched in the face unless I punch you in the face?
right?
Here it was, Helm recalling her experiences of shooting. The night shots lasted 3 weeks, even if they did lead to great dramatic moments, even if we did follow Fritz Lang's directions, as though in a trance, enthusiastic and enraptured at the same time, I can't forget the incredible strain they put us under. The work wasn't easy, and the authenticity in the portrayal ended up testing our nerves now and then. For instance, it wasn't fun at all when Grot drags me by the hair to have me burned at the stake. Once I even fainted during the transformation scene. Maria, as the android, is clamped to some kind of wooden armament, and because the shot took so long, I didn't get enough air.
Stand still. Stand still.
Why are you breathing?
Oh
Oh,
man.
yeah, perfectionism. I mean, I guess like you're supposed to be a machine. You're supposed to be not moving. Like,
And
quit
then
moving.
this was German Expressionism too, so they a lot more overacting. It was more emoting than usual. Even no realism about how these people would actually be in real life. No subtlety. You know.
Well, and I noticed, and I did figure something out when I was reading a little bit more about this. The actors and kind of why they were the way that they were, sort of because there was a lot of that overacting. Um, the especially with Frater,
Hmm.
he that one right there, this scene we were talking about this earlier, where he's the worker that he wants to trade places with, because I mean that's the easiest job, moving the little things, right?
I don't know.
Um,
The guy was passing out. There must have been some part of the job we didn't see. I'm joking.
I'm I'm gonna go try to do that for 10 days or
At
for
10-hour shifts.
10-hour shift, yeah, and just watching the clock, just like
Hmm.
yeah, probably was just bored to death, like didn't look all unless those things weigh like a ton or something, I don't know.
They looked like they were swinging. pretty
Yeah,
easy.
yeah, but no, like, so him, that actor,
He threw himself into every scene, like head
he did.
first, just always with the extra emoting and everything.
So,
Getting way too close to people.
Gustav Froelich, Frater, he was, vaudeville. He did not I believe this was his first, acting role. Um, he You could very much tell that it was his first acting role because in the vaudeville sense of everything, he's gotta be over, out,
Mhm.
extra as can be. People have to see his face, and they have to feel how he's feeling, and sometimes, I mean, he got close,
Yeah,
like, he got real close.
yeah.
Um,
The
ve
Josaphat, every time he hugs Josaphat, he then they're holding each other right up. It's very much like, make sure they see what you're doing in the back row. Even
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like there's a camera. It's like, make sure they're sure what's happening all the way in the back.
He was very like that. They were just so close. Like, the first time I watched it, that was like, okay, I guess they're trying to emulate something here. But then they go away to a shot of Dad, Yo Fraterson, and they
Mhm,
come back, and he's even closer. Like, they haven't broke this scene yet, and the guy's just like getting closer and closer and
mhm.
closer, and it's not right, man.
It was very close, yeah. It was very, very close.
But again, the overacting kind of deal. Bridget Helm, um, she made her feature film debut with Metropolis, so she kind of had that same expressionist, the woman of, "Oh, woe is me, where is the
Mhm.
man to save our whatever?" But, the father, Alfred Abel, he'd already worked on screen. He was noted in stage, so you could definitely tell he was a little bit more, subdued, I
He
guess you
was
would
a
say.
I also look at it as they were supposed to be a lot younger, Freder and Maria, I
Oh,
believe,
yeah.
so, more like children, and so how would a child react over emotionally, right? So
Sure.
I'll try to give some credit there. How would the staunch father react when he's the one in charge of the whole city? A little bit more reserved in everything he does, and so I
Cold,
cold,
calculated,
calculated, yes, good way to put it.
like, everybody's sitting around waiting for him to start talking, the ones the very beginning in the movie where he's walking around and then he puts his hand up. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'm talking again. Why are you not taking notes?"
Mhm.
Or even with Josaphat, you know, "Why are you not the one telling me about this factory having blown up?"
Josephat really, really got the raw end of the deal. I mean, no
He
matter
got
what happened, you looked at Josephat and why aren't you the one giving me the information? How come you
Yeah,
didn't know about this already? Yeah, and I guess if you're the right hand man, he should have known already.
yeah,
But
collect your final pay and
yeah,
you're dismissed. It it really, a lot of things about the movie struck me. The visual, that first and foremost, like, you get that immediately. Um,
it
you
is beautiful,
do
absolutely
Yeah,
gorgeous. What they did visually, especially for the time, amazing.
the art deco, everything's the huge arches and
Hmm.
cathedral style of everything. It's like you should be praying throughout this entire movie. It's very yeah.
Besides all
Um,
the biblical references and everything as well,
Besides that, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
it,
so
it all lends to it. When it was criticized, I have here, name's tough, but Louis Buñuel, Banuel, a lot of people didn't like the story because it was very simplistic, and
right.
he said that the story was trivial and bombastic and pedantic, of antiquated romanticism, but he called it the most marvelous picture book imaginable. So you can't just say it sucked. It's like visually stunning. I kind of feel that way about the movie Avatar. You know, James Cameron's Avatar, where it's really great to look at, but story substance. I haven't even seen the other ones. I know there's a first one and I think two more. So I understand that sort of criticism.
Yeah, they, like a lot of the things and even up to today, a lot of the novels, they get themes dropped because they're gonna fall flat in front of the audiences that they're intended to do
Hmm.
something to. Specifically, there was the, uh, references to magic, occultism, things along those natures that they were taken out because it kinda makes you wonder if they'd have kept that in, would it have then been a talking point of the critics to be like, "Oh, it was way too far left field with the occult and magic and all of this," and would that have been their talking point at that point? Or would adding that in have made them think that it wasn't so blah?
I think there was maybe a harder line between fantasy and science fiction. Like in this scene right here, you can see that there's still the upside down pentagram, right?
Yeah,
So it still bled through. It still bled through here and there, but it was more scientific.
yeah.
So
I mean, this was considered the pioneer of science fiction.
mhm,
This was You look at everything that came afterward, and just like a lot of these silent movies, not just necessarily the way they shot it or how they did their version of the special effects, but the themes that went throughout the movie of what can we leave to kind of the what can we leave out to the what can we leave to the imagination, and what on the other end of that needs to be made like upfront. I believe that scene that we were talking about just there with the pentagram still being in the back. It's kinda like, "Hey, there's a little bit of occultiveness still going on."
yeah,
However, this guy's clearly a scientist. He's
mhm,
clearly, they push that home later on where they've got him waving random wands around and mixing stupid random chemicals around. A lot of that I see, bleeding over, once we get into horror movies such as, like, Frankenstein.
yeah,
Um, you know, kind of the mad laboratory and random stuff just bubbling in the corner and the Tesla coils going
yeah,
off because it looks science, things are happening here, you mere mortals.
yeah.
Geniuses would understand.
I see a lot of what I guess could be inspiration for Doctor Who later on too. Even Rotwang, the scientist, it, being kind of a magical scientist, kind of like Doctor Who, and then even in robot form, Maria, or Hell, she was designed to be. First Rotwang creates her kind of to be a clone version of Fredder's mom, right?
Mhm.
And then, but she looks kind of like the Cybermen from Doctor Who. So uh, this is one of those movies where visuals and themes definitely carried over to a lot of other things in the future.
I When we were first talking about this, you were mentioning, the version, Marauders version of
Giorgio
it.
Moroder's, that's the first one I saw, you know.
Yeah, and when you were mentioning that, I don't know what clicked in my head to make me immediately go to it, but I immediately thought about, because I think you said, Queen did music for it and all this, and I was like, "Is
At least
that
Freddie
where,
Mercury did. At least Freddie
uh,
Mercury.
Radio Gaga?"
Yeah.
The whole music video of Radio Gaga,
Mhm.
it's part pieces of this movie that they took,
Yeah.
where he's having to move the things.
Mhm.
That's in the music video.
Yeah.
That's from this movie. They superimposed his face on the Machine Man at one point. Um, the one where the little rings are going around the Machine Man while it's being
Yeah.
transformed into Maria, that's I will say about that version, it was a lot faster,
It
um,
was.
but the
They didn't
inner
have as
titles.
much to work with. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, the inner titles. taking those out, and I had never thought of this before, um, I don't know why, but cutting and editing a silent film nowadays, take the intertitles out, put captions up, like closed captions across the bottom,
Yeah.
and then you don't have these random blackout s breaks in the middle of it that it's just like, "Okay, stop the film and read for a second."
Mhm.
I don't know if you're like me, I haven't been able to watch a movie, TV show, or anything without closed captions on for at least 10 years.
Really.
Maybe it's just my hearing, or maybe it's just my ADHD that won't let me pay
Depends on what
attention.
it is. Depends. Sometimes if there are particular actors, maybe I can't think of any on top of my head, but I always may have an issue understanding what they're saying. Or
Yeah,
like Winona Ryder trying to speak in a British accent, subtitles will be on.
uh, okay, yeah. I think it was a little bit of that started me doing that, like, where it
Yeah.
was like, I heard something, but I wasn't sure that I heard it, or I couldn't understand what it was, or somebody speaking under their breath, and
Mhm.
then I would go back and turn on the closed captions, and then eventually my hearing sucks, so I just left them on, and now
Yeah.
I watch everything with closed captions. But that definitely kinda lent to, the cohesiveness of the story. It didn't have as much of a break,
Yeah.
but I also feel like certain movies from this time were made with those breaks in them, so that it kind of helped to pace the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially in the scene where it might be this one where, they were all meeting down in the depths, and they're talking about the mediator, the great mediator.
Mhm.
The pacing of that scene was just so that, I mean, it was almost like a Murnau where, I think in Nosferatu, he paced and he timed his scenes with a metronome
Yeah.
to where they had that, um, y y obviously for the music, they would have to play over it later, but they kind of had that easy to pace feel to 'em. But it set it up, it gave you the suspense long enough for him to turn the lights on over top of Freighter, and he's the great mediator and all
Mhm.
that, so maybe it's just our instant gratification, society that we have now that
I would definitely appreciate every silent film to be recut with subtitles instead of dialogue cards or text cards, that it would shorten the movies by, a percentage, maybe 10% across the board, but
yeah,
it would be a little bit more cohesive watching
yeah,
for us, for the modern sensibility of the way we watch movies, I guess, you know?
yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's just a lot of the ways that they did things were not necessarily because of how to pace the film or how to do this or how to do that, it was like so many things, the first time that you see them in this film, you're like, "Oh, that's brand new." Like, the way that the buildings were styled was the way that even in the 1920s, they were imagining that they wanted their cities to look like then. You look at the Hoover Dam, Art Deco all over the place on the
Yeah,
inside, that was the theme. But the
the
use of
dam itself,
automobile. Yeah, the dam itself, yeah, huge, giant, you know,
the
um
flowing arches and
yeah, but the use of automobiles in this movie, that was something that kinda, like, "Okay, that's cool," we got highways and stuff,
mhm.
um,
And to mimic that, they
but
used like 300 miniatures, and it took them 8 days to create 10 seconds with stop motion. So,
really?
yeah, from what I was reading about, production and everything. Besides,
Wow.
the Schuften process, right here, you see these miniatures on the screen,
Yeah.
and yeah, apparently every 8 days, 7, 8 days, they'd get 10 seconds worth of footage.
Uh, I don't know if I'd have that kind of patience. We're talking about, them wanting people to sit through a 9-hour movie last week with Greed.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have that kind of patience for,
At least
"Okay,
Lang only shot for 2.5 hours, you know?
yeah,
He was only trying to shoot for 2.5 hours, so
yeah." I just see a lot of things that, like, this movie started or furthered that before you would only read, you'd only be able to read about it.
yeah.
but you see a lot of the kind of tropes, the stereotypical film tropes that came out of this, that are used widely, almost everywhere now,
Yeah.
when you see a movie. The thin man character,
Mhm.
kind of like the fixer, Yo Fredersen's fixer,
Mhm.
or his just his underling, whatever you wanna call him, his go guy. Now
He made me laugh. There's a part I wanted to bring up about him too that really made me laugh when I was rewatching it. But when Fredersen, the father is asking, "Where's my son?" And the thin man is saying, "Tomorrow, everyone will be asking you, 'Where's my son?'" And it was like he seemed to enjoy the chaos in that scene. I don't know if I just picked up on like a weird angle of it, but he answered the question by saying like, "And tomorrow they'll all be asking you." But then later on, he's there and protecting Joe again. And sorry, what were you
it
saying?
it no, no, it that's the thing is, like, it kind of so you've got your how do I wanna put it? Your, let's say the Al Neri to your Don Corleone. You know,
Mhm.
you've got the guy who's not good enough to be brought around your normal business, but he's the guy you call when the crap hits the fan, but you also can't control him.
Yeah,
And the way that he talks is like that, like, "Oh, well, don't you
menacing.
know?" Yeah, menacing, yeah. The slinking character of the background who becomes the issue or an issue at the height of the conflict.
Mhm.
Um, that trope itself was literally brought around in I know in at least the Charlie's Angels movie where there was another creepy thin guy or creepy whatever guy, that was played by Crispin Glover that looked almost identical to this one, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
Um, the cigarette smoking man from The X-Files,
I was
the guy
thinking
that's
of,
just
the tall man from Phantasm.
there you go, that trope right there, that's the first time you see it. That's the first time I've seen it ever, and it's 1927. We're gonna go through a lot more movies, so maybe we'll see it before then, but, you know, maybe, I don't know. But then you have the whole idea the father being stuck in his ways and the son wanting to break out of that, wanting to break away from the shadow of the father, kind of. You see that in the beginning with the thing with Josephat where he's like, "Well, that's my friend. Didn't you see how I was about to kiss him? What do you mean you're gonna
Yeah,
fire him and send him to the mines?" Like, um, we already touched on this, mad scientist.
yeah,
Um, now I did just kind of out of boredom, I went and watched the 1912 Frankenstein.
okay.
Kinda thinking, "Well, am I right about Mad Scientist?" Yeah, I'm still right about Mad Scientist because back then, when they were making 1912's Frankenstein, oh my god, you wanna talk about jumping all over the place. It goes from, like, Frankenstein goes to college, and then they're waving him away, and then Frankenstein makes man, and then he's, like, throwing stuff around in a laboratory. Frankenstein comes back from college. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, there's not enough here to go on that he's a mad scientist." This was definitely the Rot Wang. He was very you could see in his face that he both hated Yo Fredersen, and he's like, "I'm going to get this woman, even if I
Mhm.
have to make her," you know?
Yeah.
Very, ugh,
Driven
uh,
insane for losing they don't go into it, but you can kinda take away that they were vying for the same woman,
yeah,
and so there's a rivalry there too,
yeah,
but at this point, Joe Fredersen, he owns the whole town.
mhm,
So he approaches him like, "You're gonna work with me."
mhm.
Of course
Well,
you
and
are.
that there's a the important billionaire or
Mhm.
rich guy that owns
Mhm.
everything. McClintock with John Wayne.
Yeah.
The town is named after him.
Yep.
He owns the town, quite literally. That that trope falls in too. Bruce Wayne, he doesn't own all of Gotham City, but he could if he
Yeah.
wanted to. I mean, he might as well. Uh, the kind of trope of the man in the high tower looking over everything, that owns everything, controls everything, and he literally has the call of basically life or death on whether or not you get to work up here or if you get to work down there.
And that's
Um,
what his son was saying. He's like, "Don't you know," like, about Josephat, "Don't you know what it means to be fired by you? He
mhm,
has to go work down there now, dad,"
yeah,
And and still completely like, "Yeah, and?"
yeah, that's I think, again, in the use of actual style, actual elements to the film, um, where the elevators, for example, it's just so telling that you see the elevators go down to the depths where the underlings have to work, and then they go up to the high class where the elites play. It
Mhm.
that right there tells you that these people know their place. They're going down.
Yeah.
Um, just of like a few more tropes, like the younger generation being aloof about things. And I mean, what's he doing in the beginning? He's running, like, doing sports and all that, and running after a woman, and
He has a leisurely life
yeah,
and a
just ha ha ha
club.
ha ha ha. And then all of a sudden he starts getting into the class struggle, the lower class issues that they have to deal with. And then he becomes enamored with wanting to help the lower class because he's like, well, now a friend of mine's having to do it, and I've seen how they live now, so I have to do something. Um, the whole idea that an industrial career, something like that, is dangerous, and that the upper class have no idea of how hard the work is. Like, what do you mean? It's work. I go to work every day. You go to work.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're not moving the damn clock hands every 20 seconds every day, so you don't know. Um, but also the upper class versus lower class and the need to have a uniting factor between the two. That there has to be somebody to bridge the gap. And that is something that I don't think that they started with this, but it's definitely a thematic element that has resonated throughout film history at this point. That there's a struggle between those who have not, and the one
Mhm.
person from one side or the other that's going to bridge that gap. It would make me think that this would be a perfect '90s Adam Sandler movie where he's Freighter
I can see
and
Billy Madison coming from, Metropolis for sure,
he meets the girl. And then his friend gets put in, he has to work in the lowers, and through his whatever determination and all the stuff he gets to go through, he figures out how to unite the upper and lower class, and at the end, dad has a understanding, and he's the great mediator. I'm just saying, I could see that happening.
Frederick's character didn't seem to know what to do. That's another thing. He knew, "Oh, I'm the mediator," and
Mhm,
then at the end, when the man who controls the heart of the machines and Joe are standing there, and you got the brain and you got the hands right there, and they don't know how to shake hands even. You can kind of understand why some people thought it was a bit too simplistic. It's like you're right next to each other, reach out. But then she has to tell him, "You're the one who asked to help him shake hands now."
mhm.
And then he's like, "Oh."
What? The mediator between the head and the hands must be the
Is the
heart.
heart.
That's
Mhm.
the inner title, in English. I found it funny. A lot of these they play as being so cheesy now, where it's like she's down in the depths talking to everybody, talking about how the mediator must come. However, she was the mediator. He must come,
Yeah.
and then it's looking around all the workers like, well, who is it? And everybody starts looking down, and then
He's
and then
rising up.
the
He
light
just knows it's him.
shines the light shines on him and, like, on his shoulders, and it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh," like, oh my god, so
That's just
cheesy.
us. That's just for us, the audience. No one else saw it, or else they all would have turned to him in that scene and said, "It's him."
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah, I don't know, the way that they shot this was just so it was beautiful, and even with the lack of being able to use, uh, color in it, it was
Yeah.
just the lighting effects in it did enough that color wasn't necessary.
Which
I
back to the
I have
Marauder one.
seen I
I was
have
gonna say
seen
when
a
they tried it.
couple of them that, like, have added color to it.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but I did see where some of them have.
The Georgia Marauder one, I was gonna say, when they added color, it was hard to watch. It's like,
Yeah,
man, that's the first version I had seen, but it's so oddly colored when it's
right.
colored, you know?
Well, and that kinda begs the question of what would have been Lang's, um, idea for coloring that film, or when you think about it, when you think about the theme, the era, which the era of it's another thing. That one's a hard thing to pin down. When I was reading into this, some film historians place it at 2000, the year 2000, which back then was 10,000 years away as far as they could tell.
Mhm.
Uh, Marauder's version places it in the year 2026. Paramount's original release was the year 3000. And then the 1963 Ace Books novel, which is based on a 1927 English novel, states 2026. So the consensus is probably most likely 2026
Yeah.
is when this is supposed to be taking place. But did they think that things were going to be red and blue and green, or did they think that it would have this kind of monochromatic history? Like in the future, it's going to be much more monochromatic. Everything's going to be gold and silver and black. Which you look around now, the theme of millennial gray, they weren't far off.
Yeah.
So would it even have mattered to them to have any kind of color put to it if they were able?
I imagine that oh, their red light district, their party town there probably would have been flashy lights, neon maybe. Neon wasn't even discovered yet or utilized at this point in time. But
Yeah,
they did show off a lot of lights for like the party
I
place.
yeah, I just think that, you would have to go back, find out what their vision for the future would have been and whether or not that future would have involved vibrant color.
Yeah,
Um, and then based on that and based on that assumption alone, decide if future versions should try to colorize it. Mostly because of the way they had to do the makeup on, like, Frater and Maria to make them young. I wouldn't want to see like, it was hard to watch with the raccoon eyes that he had anyway. Um, I don't know. I don't think the color eyes would be great.
makeup would have been all different. You know, they knew they had to shoot it for black and white. So
Yeah.
in the colorized in the Marauder version, there's a lot less detail because of splashing color onto the film. You know, but in the black and white, you see how detailed they made these sets and the miniatures and everything.
Well, yeah. And the way that they had to color it because of that, you know? I just think that if you're going if at that point you're gonna try to essentially remake the movie.
Yeah,
Give it a new take the old themes, give it a new style, do it again, make it to where you can add your color in. Um, if you're gonna try to restore something, do your best to restore it because this also was another one of the almost lost,
yeah.
films. It existed in, I think, Paramount's cut, version, for the longest time, the shorter much shorter than the 153-minute original release.
Hmm.
So, um,
Yeah, they didn't like some of the possibly communist themes. They took out about 30 minutes, but then they destroyed it. You know, there were three original negatives, and they had one. They took out 30 minutes, and then they destroyed it. And
yeah,
then, for years there was a couple disjointed versions, and then in 2008, right, is when they discovered in Argentina a copy of more complete version.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, go figure, right?
How in the hell did a German silent film from 1927 wind up in a museum in Buenos Aires, Argentina?
I've got an idea.
I too. We've already shared this together. We have a, shall we call it a very thin mustached idea of how
Toothbrush mustached idea.
very toothbrush mustache idea of how this film wound up in Argent. I'm just saying, man, if it looks like a duck, if it walks like it, we're talking about myths
Yeah.
last week with greed, um, and the Benito Mussolini personally owned a copy of the 9-hour version. I mean, is it that far? There was at least one higher commander of the Nazis that wound up in Argentina.
Yeah.
And they were all about, preserving, what they would consider historical or otherwise occultish, things along that nature. So, would it have been completely out of the realm of possibility that they would have taken the movie with them to Argentina, and then they were like, "Here's they're coming for me. Take this." And then somebody just took it and was like, "See," and then threw it somewhere, and they're like, "Wait a minute, do you not know what that is? We'll put it in a vault until it's absolutely funny, and everybody's forgot about why this
Mhm.
German film is in Argentina." I didn't forget.
Yeah. No. I looked it up and I've forgotten already, but Goebbels, he was head of propaganda, right?
Mhm.
W did he go up did he say
He
goodbye himself, or did
yeah,
he see
he
Nuremberg, or
no,
did
he
he disappear?
sayonara'd. He
Okay.
sayonara'd. He spent 1 day as the chancellor
Yep, that's
and
right.
then dipped out. Same manner, same place, same time,
Mhm.
same all. It's
Well, those
obviously
who
we're
don't know
talking.
history are doomed to repeat it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I use that quote all the time. I thoroughly believe that, and we're talking about German history here with
Mhm.
this movie. We're definitely talking about something that was important to the German people, not just the Nazi Germany, the Reich, but we are talking about something that was important to German culture in general. The themes of this in the time period that we're talking about less than 10 years out from World War One. We're talking about Weimar Germany,
Mhm.
where basically less than 10 years ago, actually at this point, 8 years had passed since Germany was told, hey, you're taking the fall for World War One, by the way, all of it, every last bit of it. We're going to kill your economy. You're paying all the reparations for it. It was your fault. And the German government signed that. A lot of
Yep.
people were upset by that. That kind of points into the class struggle that you see in this movie of the higher ups don't know what the lower man has to deal with.
There
They
there was
don't
a
get the struggle. We have to have, and it's funny enough that you put into this movie that you have to have a young viral mediator, a strong
Mhm.
person, man who can unite.
Lead the way, yeah. Unite all of us. Yeah. No, the themes in this are almost begging for what happened next there. Um,
I
yeah.
mean,
They
yeah.
were all very disillusioned. They weren't even a lot of their movies were not allowed out, because there was an embargo. Anything that said German, nobody wanted any part of it until kind of the German Expressionist movement in film, and
Mhm.
they were just like, "All right, we'll let some of them in." Um, but yeah, the themes are there. You could hear what was going on in the people's mind at the time.
Absolutely. Uh, uh, and it's not to say that this was a propaganda piece by any means, but it was a film of its time. It was made to make money. It was
Yeah.
made to tell a story and make money.
Mhm.
None of these people did this for free. Um, if you wanted to speak to what was going on at the time, you made a movie about the lower class, of which there were a lot at this point in Germany, struggling to find their place among those who have.
Yeah.
Uh, that was probably a large part of why the novel was written in the first place. and the fact that this is a movie where you have the person who wrote the novel working so closely with the person who made the movie.
They wrote it together for the movie, and then she did a treatment as the novel.
Okay.
So yeah, it all kinda happened at the same time.
Okay. Well, okay, so, but still, same thing.
Mhm.
The 2 people, you have novel, you have movie. Instead of having somebody wrote the novel, let's say in the sense of Nosferatu, where
Yeah.
Bram Stoker wrote Dracula in 18 whatever, and then you would be expected to get the rights to that, which they didn't. Mm. Um, and yeah, and then, there would almost be too far gone, or the book is written, so you just take it and run with it how you want to. But in that sense, the 2 met. The
Yeah.
person who did the treatment as the novel, whether or not it was written, the story came together at the same time. Um, but the idea for the story was contemporary at the time of the class struggle between those who are not worried about the problems of the lower class, and the lower class saying, "You'd better be worried about our problems because you don't
There's more of us.
understand. Well, there's more of us, but you don't understand how much our problems are your problems.
Yeah.
Like, let this heart machine go down and see what happens to your beautiful city."
And
Um,
it kinda was interesting that, the first thing affected was their own city, their own underground city started to flood,
mhm,
and you can see that that would've worked out to the advantage of the people upstairs anyway, one way or the other. And he was trying to incite that to have reason to go against the worker class.
yeah,
But then, their own actions, being stirred up, they ended up being doing more damage to their own homes, and then wondering where their own children are, because and then of course then it's uh, the woman, and the mediator who get the kids out and send them to upstairs where it's not going to flood.
there's another interesting movie trope, that has kinda fallen off a little bit, and rightfully so, in the past, few decades, of woman bad, listening to woman dangerous, you know?
That did play heavily into this one, actually. Yeah, it did
Yeah,
really.
anytime that a woman is before men speaking her mind, it's going to end badly. Um,
And they try to echo the Lady Babylon, as well.
yeah,
Babylon the Great, I guess, with the biblical references, and um, but yeah, but at the same time, the real one, not the robot, the real one, she was the voice of reason. She
mhm.
was the one calling for peace. So, but that's not what Frederiksen wanted. So yeah, I can see that too. Now that I'm thinking about it in that context.
Yeah, no, it was that, maybe it was kind of like, okay, well, listening to the wrong woman, but in this sense, the wrong woman and the right woman look an awful lot like, what are they trying to say with that? Let's
Yeah,
burn her at the stake and find out if she's or find out, and then she turns out to be the robot, and they're like, "Oh, he was telling the truth," or whatever. The trope was there. The idea was there. Don't listen to women. Listen to the men, even if they have no idea what they're doing. Because at the end of the movie, yeah, she had to push Freighter to go shake their hands, like be the connection, you know? But she wasn't the connection. Um, it was it was the men who figured it out.
it still had to be them doing the work, even though she
Right.
had the idea.
Yeah. I think that just again, another interesting movie trope that comes around. Let's see. Yeah, 1.5 million Reichsmarks, 5.3 million at the end of it was the total budget. How much did you say that was? $24 million?
24 million US, a little over $24 million US
So definitely a lot
in today's
more,
money.
probably double what von Stroheim spent on Greed.
Yeah.
But You look at Greed, you look at this movie, definitely big difference as far as production values, in my own opinion, goes. Bigger story to be told, much bigger looking sets, even though they were only this big. Um, but I mean, even then, you look at the original cut of it, 4,189 meters, 153 minutes. Von Stroheim's looking at that going, "That's it? You spent $24 million and you got 4,100 meters?" They let my movie go at 10,000.
Yeah,
Well, no, I'm sorry. 4,189 meters. His was 10,000 feet when it was released.
that's how many feet. Yeah.
So this was about 12,000 feet, a little bit more than 12,000 feet when it was released.
Okay.
If you go by the 3.3-ish or whatever the mark is, it's about 3 feet to a meter. So 12,000 feet. And then the second cut would have been about 9,000, right under 10,000, because it was the second cut was cut to 116 minutes. It was 3,170 meters, so it would have been about 10,000. Um, but again, like Greed, critics hated it initially upon the initial release. After everybody got their hands on it to cut it, critics panned it for not. I don't know. It had a happy ending. Why did they hate it?
It was simple. That seems to be as far as a storyline. It was a simple storyline, and you know, despite how visually appealing it was, that's not what I guess they cared about.
Yeah. Let's see. Film had a world premiere in Berlin on January 10th, 1927, where the audience reacted to several of the film's most spectacular scenes with spontaneous applause. However, others suggested the premiere was met with muted applause and interspersed boos and hisses. What? They were booing this movie?
Yeah,
Like, for what good? I cannot, well, I don't think I've ever been to a movie in a movie theater where I stood up, booed, and walked out. Um, I can't, I don't get it.
that's a pretty harsh reaction.
Yeah, in the well,
That's a
especially in
harsh
the movie.
reaction. Yeah,
Look, I'm one of the kind where, like, you go to a Star Wars movie and people stand up and they're, like, cheering. I'm the kind that's sitting in the back like, "Yeah, I like the movie, and I know that people are wild about these kinds of movies, but nerd." I'm not gonna stand up and cheer at a movie. None of the people that made that movie or rely on that movie for income or worked on that movie are there to see me do it. I would much rather take it online and be like, "Hey, great job. If you ever see my words, great job."
yeah,
So booing at it, I think would would have about the same response, like, I don't know.
yeah. No, I mean it's a tough response. Maybe they really wanted. They expected a lot from Fritz Lang, and they put all their eggs in his basket. They didn't like what he had, and they really threw all those eggs back at him.
Yeah, luckily they didn't, sour first.
Yeah.
Um Just trying to say foolishness, cliche, platitude, muddlement about the mechanical progress and progress in general, which was another thing that Germany was kind of well known for. Industrialism and all of that. Pre World War One for sure. Pre World War II, they had to build it all back up afterward. All over the place, but again, it's one of those movies where you look back now and you see all of the new things that they did with it, and the expressionism, the forced perspective of it, the close-ups, a lot of the crossovers that you see between von Stroheim, Lang, Murnau, the way that they shot the movie so that you could feel as if you were there in it and not just simply watching something on a stage.
1920s German sensibilities of filmmaking, and Stroheim's too. Even though he's making films in America, you see a lot of just the attitude come through.
Well, I
Not
think it has.
not negative attitude, I mean, but just the sensibilities, attitude, sort of mindset.
Yeah, I think it just has to go to the way that the story was meant to be told in the German style of storytelling. The fact that they wanted to, kind of I don't know what the best way to put this would be, make you feel like you're in it, like you are
Yeah.
literally standing right next to these people as it's happening, without giving you a special pair of goggles and sitting you down and you can see like you're inside of it, you know? Uh, Definitely to invoke that sense of emotion that's inside of you when you see certain things happening on the screen. Um that's how it feels to me anyway, especially with the way that they shot some of these scenes of behind the head in the automobile as the automobile is pulling off. You feel as if you're not being left behind in that scene. You're
Yeah.
not just simply watching something and seeing the car go and then, "Okay, let's see what happens next." You're feeling the suspense grow of where are they going? What's going to happen when they get there? "Wait, I wanna come with you." You know what I mean? Um the clocks play a lot into the timing of the movie, the way that they time the movie, the fact that the higher ups are allowed to have your 12-hour, 24-hour clock,
Hmm.
but the underlings are like, "You base your time based off of your work schedule, like, you don't need to know how much time is passed." That's
Everything revolved around the shift clock.
Yeah.
The 10-hour shift clock was way more important than the time of day. Is where in the shift are we?
Well, you built all these wonderful buildings and everything that
Hmm.
blot out the sun for you. You're basically a mole person now.
Yeah.
You don't ever see the sun anyway, so why do you care what actual time it is? The
Yeah.
time it is the time I tell you it is. Um, yeah, no, I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. I thought that the Marauder version was great for what it was at the time. The attempted recreation of it with contemporary for the 1980s, like, let's throw some Pat Benatar in there and Freddie Mercury and all this, you know? Um, it was definitely it stands the test of time, a lot better than some other ones.
Yeah. This is one of the first silent films I'd ever seen. It may be my favorite just for that reason, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm I'm very happy that you picked this one to watch for me to watch. I've watched it probably 4 times now,
yeah,
just because I feel like it is also one of those movies where the more you watch it, the more you see. The more you didn't catch the time before. The sneakier the thin man seems to be in the background, or the more careless that Yo Frederson seems to be.
yeah.
It's just definitely it sticks with you, and it makes you wanna watch it again and again and again. Um, so I it's definitely one that I will be watching again in the future.
Same here. Yeah, this is one that I'll always revisit.
Yeah, I see why. Um, I'd
Even the
like him to
Rhoda
do
version,
Yeah, I'd like for him to do a version now that has well, no, I wouldn't. God, could you imagine, like, rap music going through it?
all new metal.
Oh, dude, put some Cannibal Corpse and some Slayer in
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
That's what I'd like to hear.
That would
But,
be it.
well, that would be all for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed this review of Metropolis. Several more reviews coming up soon, some that might have to do with the time of year. As it were, this has been Real Silent. I'm Jamie,
I'm Will.
and we'll catch you next time.